So when I had booked my return flight from Scottsdale, I had a layover in LA. And at this point, we were kind of starting to talk a little bit more. And I had booked this flight like months ago before he and I even really started talking. And so at one point, he was like, I would love to see you. And I was just like, had this crazy idea pop up in my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I extended that layover and went on a date with this guy? And I was like, no, that's crazy. Why would you do that? And so I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to see what it costs to change my flight. And this was a couple years ago when United was still doing free flight changes for their loyalty members. It was like post-COVID stuff. And so I was like, if I look and it doesn't cost me any money to change my flight, I'm going to change my flight to later, and I'm going to let this man pick me up from the airport, and we're going to go out on a date. And I was like, this is insane. Like, this is absolutely insane. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm so glad I did, because listen, this story, chef's kiss. Anyways. Hey, what's up, you guys, and welcome back to Model Behavior. It's Macy. This is a weird plot twist that I did not see coming. In the last 2 weeks of episodes, you guys have heard me complain about being sick. So I was better for a total of maybe like 4 or 5 days, and I'm not even kidding you guys. I woke up on Tuesday morning and my throat was so sore. I thought that maybe I had just like slept with my mouth open weird or something, but no, it is strep throat. So yesterday morning, which is Wednesday, when I woke up, I was like, girl, there is no way I'm going to work today. Since I've moved here, I've had strep throat 3 times. And strep throat is normally something that like little kids get, but one of the times that I went in, the doctor told me that since COVID, a lot of these illnesses that we're usually only seeing kids get, now adults are getting it, because they just like our immune systems from not being around people were just kind of shot during the pandemic in isolation and stuff like that. In any case, I am on day 3 of having strep throat, and I am struggling a little bit. You could probably hear it in my voice. Literally every time I swallow, it feels like I'm swallowing glass. If you've had strep throat, you know what I mean. I took some ibuprofen not too long ago, so I feel like it's kind of starting to kick in, but I have not spoke to another human in days. So I was like, you know what? I need to record. I'm actually supposed to be at a conference in Denver right now, which I'm actually really sad about. It's this microbiome conference that I really enjoy going to every year. But obviously I can't go because I'm sick. So I literally had to like cancel my hotel reservation. I was going to see a couple of my friends. I was going to go to my friend Delaney's Pilates class. I was so excited for it. We were going to get coffee after, and then I was going to go to the conference, and it was going to just be such a fun little hot girl weekend. Also, I had to cancel 2 dates. I'm pretty bummed about that because I just feel like hot girl summer is loading and I keep getting sick, and it's preventing me from getting back out there, girl. Like, I don't even freaking know. Anyways, I did take notes for today's episode so I could kind of stay on track. The past couple of episodes, I have not had notes, and it's fun, but it's not, I don't think it's the most engaging content. So I'm going to try to stick to my notes. Before I got sick, on Monday, I had to go down to Denver for a workshop at my agency. They have, and this is what I really like about my agency, is they always have development workshops for models. And it had been a while since I had done one. So I was like, you know what, I should just take one just as a refresher. And so the other people that were there were all pretty new models, but I think I was like the most experienced one there. But it was honestly such a good refresher, and I learned a lot of new things, which I'm like, okay, that was really good. So honestly, really interesting. And also it's really fun to be around people that are in like the creative industry, because obviously, I'm not around that on a day-to-day basis. It's just like all science all the time. So that was really nice. But I have to tell you guys about something that happened. So this honestly like made my whole week. So I had to make sure to put it in my notes. But so we had to go around the circle and like introduce ourselves and like say how long we had been with the agency, and then like say a fun fact. And so I was in the middle of introducing myself, and one of the girls in the circle, she was like, I listened to your podcast, like in front of everybody. And first of all, that made me so happy. So hi, Micah, thank you for listening. But also I was so embarrassed, because then the guy that was running the workshop was like, oh, what's your podcast about? And I'm like, how am I supposed to say like, oh, I don't know, dating and the length and width report? Like, I don't know. So I was like, oh, girls, I turned so red. I could feel my face turning so red, and everybody was like laughing. But I was like, please don't look me up, because there were some older people in there that I'm like, I'm pretty sure you'd be very disappointed if you listen to this. Which reminds me, my mom found my podcast, and I had like shown her some clips when I was home a few weeks ago, and my sister is sitting there thinking like they're hilarious. She's like dying laughing, and my mom was giving me this look of like, why are you putting that out on the internet? Like, digital footprint is a thing, girl. And like I said, that is so real. But at the same time, like I said last week, I'm like, these men are giving me like unlimited content. Why would I not use it for the sake of being demure? Like, I'm not gonna do that. So anyways, she found my podcast, she started listening, and she told me she really likes it, actually. So I'm like, okay, thank you, mommy, thank you for your support. That being said, I would literally crawl into a hole and die if my dad ever found this, but thankfully he barely knows how to use his phone, so I think that we're safe there. Anyways, thank you for listening to my podcast, Micah. That makes me so happy that you listen, and thanks for making me feel really cool, because that was so fun. I was like, oh my gosh. Anyways. Oh, also, okay, I did want to talk about something that happened after episode 10 came out. So that was like the really raunchy one where I was talking about like how many foot pics I've had requested. Oh, I do have an update on the foot pic thing too, by the way. I just remembered this. It's not in my notes, but anyways, oh, that's a funny story. Okay. So after episode 10 came out, it was probably like a week after, I got an email from Apple Podcasts, and it was just like an automated email saying that this episode is trending in Cape Town, South Africa, and it was only for like 4 hours. Model Behavior had cracked the top 200 of society and culture podcasts because all of the nasties down in Cape Town were listening to the Length and Width Report, and I'm just like, you guys, what the heck? And obviously it was only for a few hours because, like, why would it be? But for a second there, I saw that my podcast was rated ahead of It's Me Tinks, which, if you know who Tinks is, she's a huge podcaster, huge internet personality, and I love her. But yeah, that was kind of fun. I'm like, wow, you guys in Cape Town are freaky. You're loving that Length and Width Report. Also, after that happened, I learned how to check my analytics on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I noticed that almost 10% of my listeners are from the UK. And I know a couple of times on this pod, I have like absolutely butchered my Essex accent when I'm trying to imitate like a Love Island contestant. So if you're one of the listeners that are from the UK, please do not be offended at my poor attempt of an Essex accent. I respect and honor your culture that is Love Island. Anyways, thanks for listening, you guys. Okay, so what I wanted to tell you guys about, in episode 10, I read some, were they DMs or texts? I think they were texts, because I had given this guy my number at a certain point. I had read some texts out loud from him. He was one of the guys that was like, hey, you should let me worship your feet if that's not mad weird. And I never answered. So I had kind of forgotten about this guy, but I had actually connected with him, not in person, a couple years prior. This was when I was in Scottsdale. And if you're in Scottsdale during spring training, you know that it's just like man central. So the guy that had sent me those texts asking if he could worship my feet, he actually plays for an MLB team. And so he was down in Scottsdale for spring training just for a second. He was playing in like a couple of games. It was right before the season started. So it's a lot of times where the MLB teams put their franchise players in there just to get them some reps before the season starts. And I have to keep this really vague because I don't want anybody to find out who this is, because if you knew who this guy was and you knew that he has a foot fetish, you'd be like, that would be tea. Okay, that is tea. But I can't be, like I said last week, I can't be running around here airing out everybody's dirty laundry. So this MLB player is the one that requested the foot pics, okay? So he was in town recently for work, and he had texted me and he was like, hey, have you rethought my proposal at all? And I'm like, first of all, I thought he was hot until he started acting weird and asking me for foot pics. And here's the thing, I'm like, buddy, you have enough money. Like, this guy literally could pay for whatever foot pics he wants. I don't know why he's out here like requesting them for free. And I never answered, by the way, but he had texted me a couple of times asking to see me and then asking if I had rethought his request. Like, you're still out here wanting foot pics? Oh my gosh. So yeah, when I first introduced like the Length and Width Report and was talking about the foot pics, I did not indicate who this guy was, but just so you know, maybe you might know who he is, and he loves feet. I'm getting messy. Anyways, I just jumped right into the length and width report without announcing it. But yeah, that's the beginning of the length and width report. And then also the second part of the length and width report is that I did have to cancel 2 dates this week. I am rescheduling one of them, so I think it'll be good because I am excited to go out with this guy. The other one, he was really sweet about it, but we have not rescheduled a time yet, which I'm kind of bummed about. This guy, the second guy, is an olive farmer. And you have no idea how giddy. I was excited to go out with him. I was like, I'm going to ask him all these questions about olives and the process and cultivation. Like, here's the thing. When I am like deciding whether or not I want to go on a date with somebody, I always want them to have like something that will make me go on a date with you is if you have something in your life that I think is really interesting. Usually it's your job. So if you have a really interesting job, like I'm going to go out with you. Okay. And so this guy, he's an olive oil farmer, and I was so excited to go out with him. But obviously I'm not trying to like spread my disease to everybody because strep throat is extremely contagious. You also might be asking like, Macy, how are you in like full hair and makeup right now? To be honest, I just wanted to do something to make myself feel more human. Like I said, I have not been interacting with anybody in forever. I have been getting through Iron Flame, so that's been good, but I just cannot believe that I was so sick 2 weeks ago and all of a sudden I'm like so sick again. Okay, so I also have, I got totally derailed. I was going to go on what was I talking about? Well, I was talking about the dates that I was going on and how I was like excited to go on the date with the olive oil farmer, but then I had to cancel because I have strep throat. I was telling you about how I only go on dates with guys that have interesting jobs to me, or something interesting about them, obviously. And that's like the reason why we go on dates. So before you're like, oh, stop being so materialistic. I'm not being materialistic. I just don't want to be bored. Last week, I actually had cut this part out because I was rambling about it for a while, but I did go out on a couple of dates with a guy that is also a scientist. And I was talking about how it was really interesting being on a date with someone who does literally the exact same thing as me. I was talking about how neither of us knew that we did the exact same type of research before we went on this date. And then all of a sudden we were like, wait, you do the same thing as me. And it was a really good date just because I felt like the conversation was really stimulating and I felt very challenged by some of the things that he said. And I still kind of stand by the fact that I don't want to date someone who does the exact same thing as me for a lot of reasons that I was rambling about. And that's why I had to cut it out because the episode was getting too long. But it made me think about like things that I like about conversations on dates. And one of the things is like when I really like it when the guy challenges me to think or, just pushes me a little bit. And so that's something that I really like. As far as other length and width report items, I obviously have been sick and I've been sick on and off for like the last 3 weeks. So I do not have a lot of items to report for the length and width report, but I did want to tell you about the reemergence of Foot Pick guy and give you a little bit more of a backstory on him, because it makes it a little bit more scandalous. Okay, so my friend Kate was here last Friday. So last you guys heard from me, I was like feeling better from being sick and I went and played in this mini tennis tournament, and I have not played in a bit. And tennis is one of those things where if you don't play in a while, you kind of lose it. And so I did it took me a second to get back into it, but now I feel like I'm back into it. And I played a league match on Tuesday and things are going well. Okay, things are coming back. But anyways, so Kate was here, but she lives up in Estes, so she stayed with me for the night and she wanted to go out. So last you guys heard from me, I was gonna go do that. So I went out with Kate and we had such a fun time. Oh my gosh, it was our first time going out together. But her family's from Kentucky, so she only drinks bourbon lemonades. And we went to this bar in Fort Collins called The Whiskey, and I had never been to it before. And it was so much fun. So Kate is like this really pretty little blonde girl, just like super outgoing. And so honestly, like if you don't have an LBB in your arsenal of friends, an LBB is a little blonde girl. Just know, if you don't have an LBB in your arsenal of friends, you need to get one because those girls are the most powerful girls in the universe. There is nothing that can stop an LBB from getting what she wants. Literally, if I did something and then an LBB did something, the LBB would be successful over me every single time. And so instead of hating on the fact that you are not a little blonde girl, you need to get a little blonde girl in your friend group, and then anything is possible, literally. And already Kate as a person, she's like so good with people. And so basically what ended up happening is she befriended the bartender, and then the bartender kept giving us free shots like all night. It was super fun at the time, but then the next day I woke up with like a freaking raging hangover because I I cannot drink that much, okay? Like, my idea of a really fun night is to have 2, maybe 3 drinks with a tall glass of water in between and a full dinner, and I will be happily tipsy for maybe an hour or two, and then it'll wear off, and then I will go home, do my full skincare routine, and be in bed by 11 p.m. at the latest. Like, that is my ideal night out. We stayed out a little bit later than that because Kate obviously was putting the razzle dazzle on the bartender. And let me just say, I was taking notes, okay? If I'm learning anything for the hot girl summer that is loading, I'm like, I need to have more LBBs in my friend arsenal, because those girls can be mobilized at a moment's notice and they will get you whatever you want, okay? If you can't get a free drink, your LBB will do it for you. So, speaking of which, Kate is newly single, and so I am really excited for hot girl summer. I say that, and it's like, what does that even look like? Especially with me teaching up in Montana. I'm like, yes, hot girl summer, and then I just like freaking leave and go into the mountains. Like, honestly, any guy who dates me in the future does not have to worry about me having a hot girl summer, because the thing about me is I spend the entire summer in the mountains teaching. I have no cell service. I am literally working. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I am not even close to any place where I could go out and like meet other guys. Like, that's a huge green flag of mine, is that I will never have a hot girl summer, because that's where I'm at. I'm in the mountains of Canada. I'm with my students, and that's it. There's nothing that I could do there to like make you jealous. Like, don't even worry about it, because I'm gone for so long in the summer. I think I just need to go like extra hard in June and August. But I don't know, girl. June I do have to travel a little bit for work, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I wanted to tell you guys a story today, because I obviously have been feeling a little bit down in the dumps because of being sick. I was just like so ready to go out in civilization again. In the past few days, I was like living my best life, and then I just woke up and I was just down bad again. So I figured I would lighten the mood by telling you guys the story of the best first date that I've ever been on. And I've been on a lot of good first dates, but I think that I have this theory, okay, that any relationship that's worthwhile, any relationship that ends up being something, your first date is not good. And I think it's just because usually the guy or the girl or both are pretty nervous on a first date, especially if it's someone that like are actually taking seriously. So I have this idea that like if you have a really good first date, then your relationship is probably not going to progress. Like, people are like, oh yeah, we had like the most insane chemistry on a first date. It's like, I just don't think that that's how relationships are built. I think that strong relationships are built on the backs of guys that fumble over their words and say stupid things and are awkward and don't spit game. And I think for girls it's the same thing. Like, I think that love is born out of that awkwardness. And it was actually interesting. I read this study. This was like a few months ago now. And side note, anytime I'm with one of my friends, they're like, you always bring up so many studies. And I'm like, girl, this is how I comfort myself, is with knowledge. But anyways, I read this study a few months ago that followed couples from their first date and then all the way to marriage. And obviously a lot of those couples didn't get married, but they still collected data on all of that. And for the married couples, basically they compared their interviews from right after their first date to when they got married. And they did the same interview, had them recall the same memory of the first date. And the married couples initially, let's say like after their first date with this person that was going to become their partner, which they didn't know obviously at the time, they would be like, oh, the date was okay. It was kind of so-so, like, I don't know. But then if you ask them to recount the same experience of their first date after they got married, the same person would be like, oh my gosh, it was magical. It was love at first sight, because that was what the study was on, was like seeing if love at first sight was a thing. And the married people would be like, it's love at first sight. Like, there was no going back. And it's like, okay, girl, but like if you look at your interview from after the first date so many years ago, that's not what you said then. So people tend to like look back on their memories with their now partner like with rose-colored glasses. But truly, I do think that like if you have an awkward first date, like that's a good sign. And in my personal experience, every first date that I've been on that I was like, wow, that was amazing, like I absolutely loved it, is kind of like gone up in flame. That being said, I'm not going to after this first date, things definitely did not go up in flames, but we just kind of decided we were on different levels of like what we wanted. And I have to give props to this guy. He's like an excellent communicator. He never once made me feel bad and whatever. But in any case, I will say that this is the best first date that I have ever been on. Let me give you the backstory. So this was like 2 years ago. I don't know. It was a minute ago. But anyways, I was had planned my semi-annual trip to Scottsdale, as I always do around January. I'm like, you know what? I'm getting sick of this Colorado snow. I need to go someplace warm and rot by a pool. So I had already planned a trip to go visit Lindsay. And at this time, I was modeling a lot more. And I was trying to build my portfolio. So I had booked a test shoot with this photographer down in Scottsdale. And we had kind of planned this really cool concept. It was going to be like desert cowgirl, that kind of thing. Side note, like I love the way that the pictures turned out from this test. I still look at those. I still look at my book and I'm like, yeah, those are some of like the strongest pictures in my portfolio. So prior to this trip, I had matched with this guy and we had kind of been talking a little bit because his sister lives in Boulder. That is kind of how we connected, and he was there around Thanksgiving for the holidays, and so we had been talking kind of back and forth then and just kind of texting, and he was really sweet and I don't know, really dynamic. And so he was not my normal type. Okay, so my normal type, my mom always jokes like, oh, you don't like blonde guys. Like, yeah, he's cute, but like he's blonde. Like, you're not going to like him. And I'm always like, no, I'm open to dating blonde guys. But if you look at like my relationship history, like there's not a blonde guy in sight. And I don't really know why it's turned out that way because like I always say, like I don't necessarily have like a physical type. He just has to be confident and take care of himself. And that's definitely true with stuff like height. Like, a lot of girls are like, I will only, like my friend Emily, I know you're listening to this girl. She is 5'2" and she's only ever dated guys that are like over 6'4", like the tallest men you've ever seen. For me, like I've dated all heights, but the only heights of guys that I've dated seriously are my short kings. Okay. So they're guys that are like about, I wouldn't classify them as short kings. And also I think that's kind of a derogatory term, but they're usually around my height or just a little bit taller. And here's the thing. I am a proponent of dating someone who's around your same height because it's so much easier to hug them. You're on the same level. You don't have to like stand on your tippy toes to kiss them, all of that stuff. That being said, would I be opposed to dating a really tall guy? Absolutely not. Like my parents are so serious about having D1 grandkids. It's insane. I think I get a little bit of a pass because in my family, I'm like the smart one. So yeah, so this guy was a blonde guy. And so he was not my normal type at all. But I had really enjoyed his banter. Like, I don't know, it was good. And so we had originally made plans to see each other, like go out over Thanksgiving. But something was really, I remember there was like a blizzard that came in. So we ended up not meeting up then, but we still stayed in contact. And so fast forward to this trip to Scottsdale, we had been talking quite a bit. And this is kind of funny, but I randomly, when I booked my return flight from the Scottsdale trip, the cheapest flight that I could find had a layover in Los Angeles. And this guy lives in Los Angeles, okay? Also, side note, so this guy is an actor and I recognized him from like one of my favorite movies growing up. I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy was in this movie. And he's been in like a lot of other movies and shows too. So like I'm trying to like keep it respectful, but like he's like a very successful actor. And so obviously I'd recognized him from that one movie that I loved growing up. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So I was like, I don't care that you're blonde. Like, you're in my favorite movie. I'll forgive you being blonde just this once, which is so funny. My friend Leah sent me this reel earlier today where it was like this girl, and you guys have probably seen it on TikTok. It was like this girl talking about how no self-respecting man is blonde. Like, if you're blonde, just grow up. And my friend Elise has always said that. Like, when I saw her a couple months ago, she literally was like, no mature man is blonde. Like, if you're blonde, you need to grow up. So I thought that was so funny. But I was like, this guy's blonde, but like, he's in my favorite movie, so I will forgive it just this once. So when I had booked my return flight from Scottsdale, I had a layover in LA, and at this point we were kind of starting to talk a little bit more, and I had booked this flight like months ago before he and I even really started talking. And so at one point he was like, I would love to see you, and I was just like, had this crazy idea pop up in my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I extended that layover and went on a date with this guy? And I was like, no, that's like crazy. Why would you do that? And so I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to see what it costs to change my flight. And this was like a couple years ago when United was still doing like free flight changes for their like loyalty members. It was like post-COVID stuff. And so I was like, if I look and it doesn't cost me any money to change my flight, I'm going to change my flight to later, and I'm going to let this man pick me up from the airport, and we're going to go out on a date. And I was like, this is insane. Like, this is absolutely insane. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm so glad I did, because listen, this story, chef's kiss. Anyways, so I looked to see if I could change my flight, and sure enough, I could change my flight till later in the day for free. So now I have like this, it's like a 9-hour layover in Los Angeles. And I was like, okay, that's perfect because it gives him time to take me back to the airport in time for me to get back through security, blah, blah, blah. Well, the reason why I talked about the backstory of me booking this test shoot in Scottsdale when I was down there is because, again, I told you it was like a concept shoot with like, it was like Desert Cowgirl. And so I brought like my own like cowgirl hat. And if you've like flown with a cowboy hat, you know, like you can't be putting it up in the overhead bins. It gets crushed really easy. So the only way to make sure that it's safe is to literally wear it on the plane. But I was like, girl, I'm from Montana. Like you see that all the time. So I was not self-conscious about that at all. Well, anyways, when I'm making plans to see this guy, he's like, oh, it's interesting you have like such a long layover. And here's the thing, I was not at the point where I was like going to be truthful with this man. Like now if this happened, I'd be like, yeah, what of it, I'm going to extend my layover to see you. I was trying to act cool because I thought that this guy was like so cool. So I was like, yeah, I don't know, like it's just how it worked, I guess. I was lying, okay? And I'm a reformed lying to men person. Like I fully believe now in only lying to men if your personal safety is affected. But like, be honest, just be honest. It's not going to make him like you any more or any less. So then he was like, oh, you have this layover. And I was just like, yeah, I don't know. That's just how it happened. As if I didn't like move my flight. I was just freaking lying to him. But anyways, so I have a great weekend in Scottsdale. I do the shoot. The pictures come out amazing. And then it comes time for me to fly home to Colorado via Los Angeles. So I get on this flight and I'm wearing my cowboy hat, okay? And so I told him, I'd send him a picture of me wearing the cowboy hat. And I'm like, just so you know, like I have this hat from the shoot. And he was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I get off the plane at LAX and he picks me up from the airport. I let this man pick me up from the airport and he's like really nice, really sweet. Like I had this moment where I was like getting into his car where I was like, could I get murdered? But here's the thing is like I had told a couple of my close girlfriends who this guy was and they like knew who he was. I was like, yeah, I remember this movie. Like this is the guy that I'm going to go out with. And so they knew who he was. And I was like, here's my location. Like if for some reason you see me like doing something weird, like please like check in and just know like this is the time that my flight's gonna leave. I'll text you before, you know, I had a whole game plan, okay? But I was not about to tell like my mom or anybody like that I'm going on this crazy date in Los Angeles with this actor. So he picked me up and basically what we ended up doing for the date, he was like, I'm gonna give you like a tour of Los Angeles since you've never been here. And like I had been to like Anaheim, like obviously Disneyland. I had been to like Newport Beach for like basketball stuff, but I'd never been to like up north in like Los Angeles really ever. And so we went on this like long tour of Los Angeles. He drove me all the way to Malibu and we went to Venice Beach. We went on little walks and we stopped at a couple of his favorite spots and it was honestly so much fun. And this guy was just like really cool. Obviously when I was on the date, I couldn't really like feel us connecting at all. But like I said, like you can't really like write off the way a man acts on a first date as like, oh, this is how he really is, because sometimes they're just nervous. But this guy obviously knew what he was doing. Like he had game, whatever. And so, yeah, so we were just having this really fun time. And so then we were headed to, where were we headed to? We were headed to like this like spot where we were going to go on like a little bit of a hike. And like, mind you, this man had told me that we were going to do all of this ahead of time. So I was like prepared to like, I was wearing appropriate clothing, right? I wasn't like dressed up. I was like, yeah, I'm ready to like explore LA. I'm ready to do whatever and go on a few hot girl walks, whatever. So we were on our way to like go to this, go on this like short trail where we could get a really good view of the Hollywood sign. And we are driving down Sunset Boulevard. It was like right by the Beverly Hills Hotel. I almost said his name. And this guy was like speeding, okay? And like, obviously as one does in LA, like I didn't feel unsafe. He was just going with the flow of traffic. And he hits this pothole so hard. It was like, doof, so hard. And he hit it so hard that it burst his tire. So then we pull over on the side of the road. We kind of turn down this street. It's like a residential area in Beverly Hills. And his tire is just completely blown. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I kind of was like giving him a hard time because I'm like, this man is born and raised in LA. Like there's no way that this man knows how to change a tire. And I was right. I was like, you don't know how to change a tire? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, do you have AAA? And he was like, yes. I'm like, okay, well, like I have AAA. I could have called mine too. And I was kind of just laughing and giving him a hard time because I'm like, I knew you didn't know how to change a tire. What self-respecting blonde guy knows how to change it? I'm just kidding. If you're a blonde guy, Like one of my brothers is literally blonde. I just think that the blonde man slander is so funny. And I'm like, I don't think that. And then you look at my dating history and it's like, do you think that? I don't know. Watch my next boyfriend be a blonde guy and I'll eat my words. But anyways, so we call AAA and AAA is like, yeah, we'll be there. It's going to be like an hour wait. And like, that's pretty normal when you call AAA. So in the meantime, we're just like sitting on the curb at this random street in Los Angeles and just kind of talking. And so then at one point when he had gone into his trunk to like see, because I was like, do you have like a jack? Do you have all the stuff you need to change the tire? And so we were looking for his jack, which we did find. And in the back, I saw that he had like a cornhole set up. And I'm like, why do you have cornhole in the back of your car? And he was like, oh, like my friend threw this party. He just bought a house and I brought it so that we could play. So I was like, okay, well, like we should play. So we pull out the cornhole setup out of the back of his car and we're just playing cornhole on the side of the road, on the side of Sunset Boulevard, just playing cornhole, okay? And nobody's giving us a second glance. Like this is probably like a normal occurrence in Los Angeles. And so we spent the next probably like hour and a half because the tow truck drivers were late. We probably spent the next hour and a half just playing cornhole and getting to know each other. And it was honestly so much fun. I freaking loved it. And so then the repair guy came and he changed the tire and all that stuff and we were good to go. But then he needed to take his old tire to get repaired. And he was so apologetic. He's like, I have some stuff coming up later this week that I have to have my car for. And I know, like, you can't be driving on a donut. And so I was like, no, that's totally fine. So we ended up taking his car to the tire repair shop so that we could get that tire mended or whatever. Sorry, I'm not using the right words. Get the tire fixed, like the original tire. And so at that point, it was like almost time for him to take me back to the airport. And so it was kind of funny, but he was like, okay, I'll order you an Uber. So he orders me an Uber to go back to the airport. And a couple minutes before the Uber gets there, we walk out to the parking lot of this like tire repair store in the middle of West Hollywood. And he's like, well, I'm so sorry. This is like not how I wanted this date to go, but I'm glad that you were still down and like you still had a fun time. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is such a good story. So then he like kisses me in the middle of like this tire shop parking lot, and it was like a really sweet kiss, like nothing crazy. And I was just like, this is so fun. Like when I was kissing him, I was like, this is so fun. And so then my Uber gets there and then he just puts my luggage. Oh, by the way, I still have all my luggage with me, obviously. And so he puts my luggage and then puts my cowboy hat right, because you're supposed to store a cowboy hat upside down. He puts it correctly in the trunk so that it's not going to get crushed. And that was it. And that was my first date with this man. And so I was supposed to be in San Diego like a few weeks later for a conference. And so we had kind of briefly talked about me maybe coming up to LA for the day just to see him. But basically, I think that he kind of was just looking for something more casual. And I definitely was not. Like, I've never been a casual girl like a day in my life. That's just the type A in me. I've never been casual about a single thing. I'm working on it, not with relationships though. I will proudly be not casual about relationships until the day I die. But so basically we just kind of had that discussion and he was so respectful about it. And I can't be mad about that, you know, like when a guy is just like, hey, like I'm just looking for something casual, and he was just like very respectful about it and wasn't pressuring me to like see him despite that. I was just like, you know what, all I can do is respect it. So we ended up not meeting up after that. Anyways, I have not heard from this man since then, but I will say, like, that was by far the best first date I've ever been on, just because it's like such a story. I've been on a lot of other really good first dates, but like, come on, like that was fun. And I should also mention, when we were stopped on the side of the road on the side of Sunset for a really long time, my friend Lindsay texted me and she was like, hey, are you alive? I've noticed that you've been stuck at the same spot for a really long time. And so then I was like, yeah, girl. Sent her a picture of this guy checking out the tire, and I was like, it's fine. This is what happened. And so it was kind of funny. But yeah, literally this man picked me up from the airport, gave me a tour of Los Angeles and beyond. We got a flat tire on Sunset Boulevard, played cornhole on the side of the road, went to a tire repair shop, and then he kissed me in the parking lot and put me in an Uber. Like, it was the best. So yeah, honestly, telling that story really put me in a better mood. I almost forgot I had strep throat for a second, but that's all I have for you guys today. I do want to hear if you guys have any really good first date stories. And like I said, I think that the key to any successful relationship is maybe not having a perfect first date, but like if you are with like your life partner now, was your first date with your partner like amazing? Like sparks were flying, or was it kind of just like, like, I don't know, we're just feeling it out? And if you're single, let me know like the best first date that you have ever been on. I really want to hear your stories. That was my story of the best first date, and I am hopeful that there will be more great first dates in the future, and I'm hoping that for you guys as well. So I hope that you have a really good rest of your week. I know it's going to be Tuesday when I post this. Hopefully by the time this goes up, I'm going to be feeling better, but I hope you guys have a great weekend and go on some really good first dates. That's my challenge to you. All right. Can't wait to talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye.